I come here by way of Memphis. I was able to go to the 50th anniversary acknowledgement commemoration of the assassination of Dr. King 50 years ago this week. And I got a chance to go be in the church where on April the 3rd, he didn't want to talk. He was sick. He was depressed. He had 102-degree fever. The week prior, they had tried to have a march in Memphis. The police infiltrated the march, paid young street organization members, so-called gang members, to throw rocks, to break windows. And for the first time in his career, a march led by Dr. King devolved into a riot. His aides, trying to help him, shoved him into a car and drove him away. And the headlines across the country said, Dr. King starts riot and runs. He was attacked on the pages of the New York Times for being irresponsible. Fewer than 4 in 10 Americans, including Black Americans, had a favorable view of Dr. King. He was one of the most unpopular and hated Americans. The young African Americans called him an Uncle Tom, a sellout, and the establishment called him a radical because he had begun to speak about poverty and against the war. Isolated, alone, he returned to Memphis to help garbage workers, not at the top of the hierarchy in any society, certainly not in the rural South. And he was alone in his hotel room, sick, when his young aides called him and said, Dr. King, despite this thunderstorm, despite everything that's gone on, the hall is full of ordinary people who've been on strike and who are still with us, but they want to hear from you. So Dr. King gathered himself and he got himself late to that church. He was well known enough at that time that all he had to do was to stand up and get to the podium, thank everyone for coming, maybe quote some scripture, and sit back down. He'd have gotten a standing ovation. He chose to do something very different. He chose to give what's now called the mountaintop speech. I may not get there with you, but I know that we as a people will get to the promised land. That is the capstone of an extraordinary speech that he gave without notes. You could play that speech right now. Anybody with a functioning brainstem would be in tears. But he was at the end of his rope. There was no national monument in his future. There was no holiday in his future. His own people were moving away from him in droves because he refused to give up a principle, which is that everybody counts and everybody matters. And I'm going to lead with love. I don't care if you're in Vietnam, being bombed by my own country. You count and you matter. I don't care if you're in Appalachia and you're a white person who may have been raised to hate me. I love you too much to let that matter. We're going to have a poor people's movement to include you too, even if you say bad things about me and my people. He had a principle that said everybody counts and everybody matters, and it cost him everything, including his life. 50 years ago this week. I say that because what we're talking about here, what we're standing up for here, is not easy. It's not always popular. It's not always understood even by the people that we are making sacrifices to defend and to honor. And that's why gatherings like this are so important. That's why sometimes we have to just recreate the circle and hold each other and help each other and witness each other in the effort, even when it's not going well, even when things aren't going the direction that we want them to go. Sometimes it's just good for us to close the circle and to hold each other's hands. So I just want to thank Valerie Kaur for having the courage and the wisdom to continue to pull us back together. Thank you so much, Valerie. Thank you so much, Valerie. I just want to talk among friends. I get to be on TV, which is really cool. I'm not gonna lie, I like it a lot. But it creates a misimpression, you know? My show is called The Van Jones Show. And that's a lie, right in the marketing. Right? Because if it was just Van Jones, it wouldn't be no show. I don't know how to run the cameras. Those good workers, those good union workers that have been there for 30 years, they know how to run those cameras. I don't know how to mix the sound and the audio. Those young college graduates that are getting ripped off and don't know how to pay their student loans back. They know how to do that. They do that work. Anything good is a big team effort. And we sometimes forget that in the celebrity culture. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. And that even the words that come out of my mouth, as awesome as they often are, they often don't come from me. They often don't come from me. I'm a part of something. I'm a part of something. Isn't that the best thing in the world? Yes. Say, I'm a part of something. I'm a part of something called the Love Army. And I'm a part of something called the Dream Corps. And I steal all they stuff. Just steal it. And I can rest in that. I can rest in that. You know, it's a blessing. Because, you know, people like us, when we're young, we're lonely. It's hard to be this sensitive and to be a small person. You know, it's hard to have these big, big hearts and little bodies. You know, and houses that might be a little bit dysfunctional, or neighborhoods that are maybe not as welcoming of people who might be a little too brainy or a little bit too weird. So when you get to be a little bit older and you can find a few people who you can agree with and you can get along with, it means more to us than it did to the popular kids, you know, who always had a clique and a posse. We didn't have that. And that's one reason why our organizations are so crazy. Because people are coming into these organizations, these movements, these coalitions, and they're bringing a lot of unmet need, including me and you. And so we sometimes can bump into each other and hurt each other and cause a lot of problems, and it takes a lot of patience. And so I love what Valerie says about that self-love being so important, and not just loving our allies and loving our opponents, but also loving ourselves and doing some of that work outside the meetings. That's why I'm in therapy, which is very helpful. So that's very good. Get it out the way. 55 minutes. But I'm a part of the Dream Corps, and the Dream Corps is a home for the Love Army. I just want to say a few things about it, because if I seem different on TV, it's because I'm different when I'm not on TV. See what I mean? It's like a lot of people on television, that was their goal, is to be on television. And so now they're on television and they've kind of met their goal, but that was never my goal. My goal was to fight for my people. My goal was to fight for freedom. My goal was to fight for liberation, and I wound up on TV. And so as a result, the considerations that I bring to the table are the collective considerations, even when you just see me. So let me just say a few things about the Dream Corps, and then let me tell you what I've been doing, and then let me hopefully I get some good feedback from you guys. The Dream Corps is a support center for initiatives that are designed to close prison doors and open doors of opportunity. That's what we do. At any given point, there are 25 to 30 people working full-time at the Dream Corps, located in Oakland, California, supporting initiatives like Yes We Code and Green for All, trying to get jobs for folks in the green economy and in high tech who wouldn't have those jobs. If you live in Oakland, California, you're 30 minutes away from the Google campus, 30 minutes away from the Apple campus, 30 minutes away from the Facebook campus, billion-dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, but they may as well be on the other side of the moon. Yes We Code works to create bridges between places like Oakland and places like Silicon Valley. Similarly, if you're in Oakland, the green economy with the solar panels and all that kind of stuff can feel very far away. So we work to close those gaps, and that bridge building is important. That's how we open those doors of opportunity. But we also work to close prison doors. And I just want to acknowledge that, the level of brutality and inhumane abuse that's being heaped on women behind bars in this country would and should put us all under the table in shame. I mean, as the Me Too Time's Up movement grows and begins to include those voices more and more, you're going to have to change the whole country, because the Dignity for Incarcerated Women's Act, which is something that we're working on at the Dream Corps, the stuff that they're fighting for is shameful. They're fighting so that women who are behind bars can have sanitary napkins. And not have to do sexual favors to get them. They're fighting so that women who are behind bars can shower without men with guns staring at them the whole time, which is happening in every prison. I mean, things that are so basic that you think, well, you have to have a law for that? Yeah, you have to have a law for that. But thanks to the Cut 50 campaign, Dignity for Incarcerated Women, we now have federal legislation moving. I believe we may actually have some support from a very surprising person. I can't announce it right now, but the least likely person in Washington, D.C. And I think now 7 states have introduced legislation to do something about it, because women's voices are rising everywhere, from the top of society to the bottom. The moment for women's voices has come. And I'm very proud to be a part of those conversations. So when I go on television, I'm coming out of meetings about those kinds of issues, talking to women who've just come out of prison and who can tell you what's happened to them. And I just want you to be aware that when I speak from that place. So I decided I wanted to do my TV show differently. I decided that I was going to reject a lot of advice. Dr. King got a lot of advice about what to do that would make it easier for him to stay on top, easier for him to stay in good graces, easier for him to be able to keep the black community on his side, easier for him to keep the Johnson administration liking him. And King turned down that advice. And that's given me a lot of courage in my smaller life, with my smaller mission, to turn down a lot of advice. The advice I got that I turned down was to put out a book last year, and the title of the book was going to be, according to the people who wanted me to do this, White Lash. White Lash. I see you smiling. You're like, that'd be a good book. I'd read that book. No, white lash. Remember I said on election night, this is the white lash, talking about the election of Donald Trump. They said, that's genius. Do a book called White Lash. F Donald Trump, something like that. And you won't even have to write words in the book. It can literally just be blank pages. And you'll be a millionaire. Just that's it, man. You're a genius. And it's already gone viral. You just white lash To Hell with Donald Trump by Van Jones, and you're done. I said, this strikes me as poorly conceived. I don't know if the next step in this has been thought all the way through. But they weren't wrong if all you're trying to do is to win in the economic game. Because that's what we've got right now. There are two business models in media: screw the liberals and screw Trump, and that's it. And as long as you're in the screw the liberals or screw Donald Trump, the business model is obvious, the audience is obvious, the marketing takes care of itself, and that's why you see that's the whole thing, that's the whole conversation. It's a whole conversation. And they wanted me to be in that. I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. I said, I would make a whole lot of people very, very glad, but also make a whole lot of other people very sad or mad, and my ability to talk to them would probably go away forever, which I don't know how we're going to have a country if everybody does this. So I wrote a book called Beyond the Messy Truth. And I tried to critique, obviously, Trump world, but also I tried to talk about where we could do better. And this book was a bestseller for 2 weeks. And then people read it, they said, wait a minute, the hell? You blaming me? This book is garbage. And no book has fallen off the bestseller list faster than my book. And I wish I could say that I was proud of this, but I think I did the right thing anyway, and I'll tell you why. Every now and again on Twitter, somebody who doesn't have my phone number, doesn't have my email address, doesn't know how to find me, will just tweet that they read the book and that it made a difference for them. And sometimes they're conservatives, sometimes they're liberals. But it's, I hadn't thought about this thing, I hadn't thought about that thing. And I'm starting to see how that middle ground, which I hated as a young radical, is wrong. When you're in the middle ground, just compromise for its own sake, well, that is wrong. But there's something that's not middle ground. There's something called common ground. There's something called common ground. That even in the middle of a battlefield, there can be common ground. And so I've been using my show and my platform to try to find it, to try to find the common ground. And it's showing up in weird places. It's showing up at funerals. It's common ground. I went to West Virginia, and I've been to communities now where they have to order, little small towns have to order freezer trucks to come to the town every Friday night. Why? Why? Who's talking?
Preserve the bodies from drug addiction.
Because by Saturday night, the morgues are already full of bodies, people who died of opioid drug addiction. By Saturday, the morgues are predictably full. They need freezer trucks to put the rest of the bodies to get them to Monday morning. Are these the Trump voters we're supposed to hate? When we say, I hate these Trump voters, is that who you're talking about? Is that who we're talking about? So I did something. I got 5 African-American leaders from South Central Los Angeles, where we've been going to funerals, where we had an addiction crisis called crack cocaine. And frankly, nobody had any sympathy for us at all. No pity, no mercy. They sent in SWAT teams, they kicked in doors, they jacked up sentences, they built prisons coast to coast. The response to our addiction crisis was pure brutality. And yet, out of all that pain and suffering, some of the wisest, most brilliant, most compassionate, most empathetic people to deal with addiction with no help from anybody else have emerged. We have geniuses in our community, despite the devastation, in fact, because of it. And I went to them on bended knee and I said, I want to put you on a plane and I want to take you. They said, to meet Oprah? Not quite. I want to take you to West Virginia. To meet with leaders on the ground there who are going to funerals and who are dealing with devastation, small towns, 30,000 people, 20% addicted. They don't have the programs. They don't know how to deal with the insurance companies. They don't have the sermons. They don't know what to do. Politicians talk about them, but no help has been forthcoming. So we flew from LAX to West Virginia. And we had 5 of the top leaders on the ground there, meeting with 5 of the top leaders. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Everybody brought pictures of folks that they had lost. People who meant something to them. And they talked first about that. By the time it was over, I realized common pain can lead to common purpose. Common pain can lead to common purpose. And common purpose should lead to common programs. And common programs should lead to common sense. And that's what's missing right now. We've been tricked into hating each other. Poor black folks that don't have anything, poor white folks that don't have anything, Muslims that are scared, sick people who are scared. Everybody's at the bottom fighting each other. And yet the medicine that this one needs is in this one's hand. The antidote for this one's poison is in this one's back pocket, and we don't even talk to each other. Two true stories about that before I move on. One is, one of the African American women and one of the white guys kind of started getting a little flirty. They didn't think we noticed. They were getting a little flirty. They kind of started talking a little bit longer than was necessary given the questions they were paired up to ask. And he's a widower. I said, hey. So I said, this is getting a little bit interesting. Because FaceTime works in West Virginia. So I said, this could be interesting. But let me test this out. So I asked the question. This is very nice. But why'd y'all vote for Donald Trump? Y'all voted for Donald Trump? You voted for Hillary Clinton? And the whole thing devolved into chaos. It was just bedlam, yelling and screaming and cussing and fussing. And I was just so happy, because. And right when it looked like the whole thing was going to be completely over, a complete disaster, I raised my hand and said, okay, so you voted one way, you voted the other. What are we going to do about these babies? What are we going to do about these babies? So I've been alive a long time. I've never seen a bird fly with only a left wing. Never seen a bird fly only with the right wing. It takes two wings to fly. What are we going to do about these babies? And they began to realize right in front of me that in that room was a potential to get the attention of both Nancy Pelosi and the Trump White House right there. That those people, because of their differences, had more power together than they ever would have apart. Because of their differences. And the little flirty couple, sister looked at the white dude, she said, I'm still gonna leave you. And he said, you'll be back. True story. And you see what happens when we talk to each other, not about each other? This is hard, but it's not that hard. It's hard, but it's not that hard. The biggest danger that we face is becoming what we're fighting. That's the biggest danger. People ask me, Van, why do you go talk to these Nazis, like literal Nazis? Why do you go to West Virginia where they're not Nazis, but they're not liberals? Why do you talk to these white? Are they listening to you, Van? Do you think you're making headway with them, Van? Are you fixing them, Van? Are you getting them to be any better than their horrible, terrible selves? Have you enlightened them to be wonderful like us? Have you finally pulled them out of their stupidity and their ignorance and their worthlessness so that maybe someday they'll be worthy like us? I don't go to try to make them better. I go because I don't want Donald Trump to make me worse. I don't want to hate anybody. I don't want to look down on anybody. I don't want to be separated from anybody. I don't go for them. If we were so great and we were so wonderful, these cities wouldn't have homeless people 20 feet deep. LA wouldn't have 80,000 people sleeping in tents. LA. If we were so perfect, if we were so wonderful, our organizations might function a little bit better. I don't go to make them better. I go so this doesn't make me worse. I don't want to become what I'm fighting. I don't want to feed what I'm fighting. I have to fight. This is not a kumbaya speech. I have to fight. I'm not going to let people be dehumanized. I'm not going to let Muslims be terrorized. I'm not going to let women be mistreated. I'm not going to let black kids get shot down in the streets. I'm not going to let people get deported. I have to fight. I fought my whole life. But I don't want to become what I'm fighting. I don't want to feed what I'm fighting. Right? I refuse to be dehumanized. That's my first responsibility. You're not going to dehumanize me. But I also have to make sure I'm not dehumanizing you. Even when I'm standing up for my own humanity. That's hard. That's hard. And so, part of what I want to say to you in closing is that it's easy on the yoga mat. It's easy. I mean, you be fighting all kind of peace. in the pews. Not when you first walk in because you manage your neighbor, but halfway through the service. By the time you walk out the door, it's easy. But when the big bully that made your life miserable as a child, when an expression of that kind of energy winds up winning and has power and is trying to trigger you and re-traumatize you every day on purpose, trying to scare the bejeebers out of you on purpose, try to literally not just run the White House, but run your house too. That's when this work matters. That's when this work matters. That's when it's hard. When people you loved and cared about voted and now defend stuff that you can't respect. That's when it matters. And so, don't get distracted by all of these fantasies that you then fall into because you're scared. You're scared, and so you think that somehow a Robert Mueller is going to come and save you. You think Robert Mueller is going to come and save you, and all you have to do is stay outraged and triggered long enough for him to come do it. You're afraid if you stop being outraged and triggered, then it's going to be normalized, and then Robert Mueller won't come and save you. So you have a tooth fairy named Robert Mueller that's going to come and bring you the country that you want. See, when you're re-triggered, when you're re-traumatized, you revert back to much younger states of mind. So fear and fantasy become your walking reality. That's most liberals now. Fear, Hitler's coming, but he's going to be impeached. The meditation, the self-care, all that helps to calm and quiet your mind so you can see clearly. And then you can lead well. See, the problem is right now our leaders are freaked out. We're freaked out. How can we get people out of a burning building when we're freaked out? Okay, so let me just walk you through the errors that we're making, what I think is the truth, and then I'll close. Trump is Hitler. Authoritarian strongman, going to destroy democracy, create a strong state, smash people. Trump is Hitler. His crimes are like Watergate. Therefore, we should fight to have him impeached. Okay, none of that's true. Feels true, emotionally true, but it's not true. Consider that maybe Trump is Berlusconi. Remember him in Italy? Not Mussolini, Berlusconi, a kleptocrat, a clown, someone who hurt Italy's economy, someone who undermined Italy's institutions, but basically just kind of a nut job who wants a lot of attention and money. All right? And sex. Berlusconi, for sure. Okay? So what if that's true? What if your enemy isn't in fact Trump as Hitler? What if it's Putin? What if he's your enemy? Do you think Putin wants a strong state? Strong America that can smash down a bunch of... No, Putin wants chaos, division, dysfunction. What if the main enemy isn't a strong state run by right-wingers, but a dysfunctional society that nobody can run? If that's the real enemy, then your question is, are our tactics helping Putin? Are we adding to the division? Are we adding to the dysfunction? Are we adding to the chaos out of our own panic? That's possible. You can't have that conversation unless our minds are calm and our hearts are big. Okay? What I would say to you is this. Here's what I think. If Putin is the enemy, dysfunction is his goal, Trump's crimes are then more like Iran-Contra. So some people will go to jail, but you'll still have the same guy in office. Our answer is what the kids in Parkland said. Vote them out. Now think about that. Impeachment now, which is a fantasy that you have no power to enact, versus vote them out, which is a strategy you can be working on right now. You see the difference? When you're calm, when you're in your faith, when you're in your power, you don't panic and come up with bad strategies that waste everybody's time and help your enemy. This isn't some kumbaya stuff. When you're calm, when you're in your faith, when you're doing your practices, you don't come up with bad strategies that help your enemy. You come up with good strategies that save your country. When you say vote them out, the kids from Parkland said they went from, thoughts and prayers. They said keep the thoughts and prayers. We might pray, we might think, but we say vote them out. The young people have the right strategy. Now, when you say vote them out, you're in a whole different world. First of all, we can work on that right now. You say, well, I already got a good person, representing me. Well, God bless you. Most people don't. So, you can then do this thing that I like, and you know what it's called? It's called work. You can do some work. Cussing out the TV is not work. Okay? Reposting stuff on Facebook is not work. That's not work. Finding candidates, knocking on doors, raising money, phone banking, all the old stuff we used to do. Called work. You know what's good about work? It feels good. You go out and do some work and me and knock on some doors and people cuss you out, slam the door, you laugh about it. Why? Because you're a part of something. You're doing something. You're meeting people. You're realizing stuff. You're understanding the world because your hands are in it again. You aren't terrified in the corner talking about Nazis. Yeah, we have Nazis. We got about 5,000 Nazis. We got 120 million voters who you hadn't talked to since 2008 when Obama ran. Okay? So this ain't no kumbaya stuff. This is a necessary precondition. Love and clarity and peace inside to being able to lead in a crisis. And we want to fight for tribalism. Well, I'm so mad, screw everybody voted for Trump. You're all bigots, you're all racist, you're all Nazis. Well, now they are. You're all Nazis, now join me. You're all bigots and idiots and fools, now join us. What kind of sales pitch is that? I know you're not trying to win no election. That's how I know we're off track. Nothing you're saying is going to make anybody vote for us. And the only way we're going to get out of this is if people vote. Listen, be very clear. No president has ever been impeached and removed from office in the history of this republic. None. Never. It's never happened. It's a fantasy based on your fear. It's never happened. Johnson was impeached in the 1800s. Senate didn't remove him. Bill Clinton was impeached in the 1900s. Senate didn't remove him. Bill Clinton served his whole term after being impeached. If you think this Senate and 2/3 of them have to. You don't have 2/3 of U.S. senators that agree they're all senators. What are you talking about? This is just complete nonsense. The whole thing. But it's because we've been re-traumatized, that's all. And so, what I say to you in closing is simply this. These young people, Dreamers, Black Lives Matter, the Enough is Enough, Me Too, Time's Up, all these new voices that are coming out, but especially the Parkland kids, vote them out. Vote them out. Let's see. Suddenly, in an election, you know what I love about elections? Everybody counts and everybody matters. Common ground becomes very important again. Do you think Putin wants that? Do you think Putin wants us going to these red districts and these purple districts trying to find common ground? Trying to get people, and I tell all the time, you say, well, Van, I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat. I'm never going to vote for Democrats. I say, well, hold on a second. Let me be very, very clear. You're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. So let me be very, very clear. If you are a true conservative and you are, for whatever reason, you're scared of Muslims and don't like immigrants and don't want women to choose, for themselves, please stay in the Republican Party. We got enough problems over here. I don't want you over here. Please stay over there. But vote for better Republicans. Vote for better Republicans. See, be clear. We're going to have two parties. But you're voting for the worst Republicans ever born. You're voting for Republicans that are not worthy of the name. You're in the party of Lincoln, a radical anti-slavery party that's become the party of Steve Bannon. Vote for better Republicans. Don't vote for me. Don't vote for Democrats because we got enough problems over here. I don't want you over here. But I want you in your party to stand up for the best, in your party. And I'll stand up for the best in mine. And if I can get my party to be good and you get your party to be good, we can get somewhere. And that's what this movement's all about. Thank you very much. Thank you.